Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to my chess game series. So on my YouTube chess channel I publish many games and I also have this series my chess games in which I publish my games that I've played maybe on some blitz here on Lichess or I've played some regular games, and these games I really like to explain because it's much easier for me to show you some of my ideas in the game. And today I wanted to show you a game. It was a blitz game played on Lichess, but here in that game I haven't made mistakes or blunders, so that's why it's I think something worth to publish. And I played against a strong Intermaster. He had a rating about 2570, so he was high rated than me, even 200 points rating points he was better. But this game I think is also important to see if you want to have a better understanding about reading positions and also some positional play. I've mentioned in some of my games that I'm maybe not the best tactician. My games are maybe not sometimes so dynamic, not maybe so fun to watch. But I have also some tactical games. But this game is really a positional brilliancy, I think, and in this we will have many strategical elements that are really important in order to get a better understanding of positions, generally speaking. So let's see the game. I'll show you also some important setups of the static center setup. It's very important to realize this static center position, but I'll explain it more in the continuation of the video. So here I played d6, d4, knight on f6. We have knight on f3. By me, I was playing with here with the white pieces, and now d5. I played c4, the queen's gambit, and now we have c6, the Slav defense, and now knight on c3. And here my opponent played e6. Now it's just really a part of my preparation. It's just a line that I like to play. It's maybe not the best line, but I like to play against the semi-Slav by simply trading off c takes d5 here. I like always to undermine a little bit black's fortress here on light squares, and after e takes d5 I play the move queen on c2. This queen on c2 is a developing move because it's of course a good square for the queen. It's a healthy square, and in some occasions if black tries the same to develop here the queen on c7, there are some tactical possibilities, maybe knight on d5 or knight on b5, because then I would have some discovered attacks against the queen. But the more important thing is that I with this queen on c2 I play also sort of a prophylactic move in the opening. It's still common theory, but it's a preparation that I have in this particular line. It prevents the very important bishop on f5 move. The bishop on f5 is always the light square bishop for black is always something that he has to worry about, because if he leaves with this light square bishop, then he leaves sometimes the b7 square unprotected, and it's now really hard for him to find a good square for the bishop. If he tries bishop on g4, there is this line with knight on e5. In the continuation, my opponent played the move h6. And this is now a very important moment of the game. So I've discussed this game with one of my followers, Brock Henley from the USA. Hi Brock, if you're watching this video. Here we have the so-called static center setup. You see these pawns are building this so-called static center, and I mentioned it many times in my games or in other commented chess games. And the idea in these types of setups is to always cement a piece, maybe a bishop, maybe a rook, maybe a knight, always on the square that's supported by the pawn. So it means from black's perspective, of course, he would love to place a knight on e4, and then from white's perspective, I would love to place my knight on e5. And here, of course, after the move h6, you see black prevented this bishop on g5 idea to create a pin against the knight. But if we watch this position, this h6 move, I would really love to get rid of these dark square bishops, because if black places his bishop on d6, then you see the bishop is his best piece because it controls very powerful diagonals. From the other hand, here my light square bishop is very powerful. The dark square bishop doesn't have good squares. It has only this 4 squares to play. So I would love to give up my dark square bishop for this bishop on d6. So Brock Henley asked me also why I did the trade off immediately these dark square bishops, because as I said, here I basically trade off one bad piece against a very powerful piece of black. So although the position is not the same, this is the main idea, because the bishop is also a very powerful protector of these squares. As I said, we want to place our knight here maybe on e5, so that's why you see here the bishop on d6 would be a defender against this potential knight on e5 outpost. So we are getting rid of this all of these pieces that can prevent me jumping here on this e5 square. I want you really to memorize now this knight on e5 idea. This is my main idea. That's why I'm pointing you out this static center setup. So my main idea is to place a knight outpost on e5. My opponent's idea is just to place the knight on e4. So let's see how I managed to do that. So here after h6, I played simply bishop on f4. And the good thing about this, if I manage to do that, if I manage to place a knight on e5, it will be hard for black to kick away the knight with potential f6 move, because he has already played with the h6 move, and then he would leave some weak light squares around the king if he castles. So you see, because he already has weakened his king side with the move h6, a potential f6 is not possible. So that's why my main idea is just to get rid all of the defenders that can protect me jumping on this e5 square. So let's see what happened. As I mentioned, bishop on d6, I simply took, and this is the move that my chess friend Brock Henley asked me why I did trade off these bishops immediately. So for me, I simply traded off, I think, worst piece against a better piece. So the best piece of black's was minor piece was this bishop on d6. So in the continuation, after queen on d6, you see all of these pawns of blacks are on light squares, so he's continuing the bishop with the light square bishop. After e3, let's now evaluate the possible activities. If I place my bishop on d3, then this bishop would have two powerful diagonals. On the other hand, you see this activity of the bishop on c8 is not so powerful because it only controls one diagonal. So that's why I went into this positional trades of pieces immediately. And here after e3, we have knight from b to d7, and you see how bad this light square bishop on c8 is. So although it's still common theory, I'm not saying you win this game immediately because I've traded off this dark square bishop. But as I said, these are the main ideas of this static center setups. As I said, I want to place my knight on e5. So far it's not possible because the queen and the knight are controlling this square very well, but of course you have to make many progressive moves in order to make that happen. So as I said, this is a really different game that than the other games that I have played, maybe published on my YouTube chess channel in this My Chess Game series, because in this series this will be a simply positional game with not so many tactical ideas, but these are really important things I think that you should solve somehow when you playing this static center setups. You see, it comes with a simple idea to place this outpost on this supported squares by this pawn. Of course, we could also search some outposts here on c5 or e5, because these are the squares that are supported by this pawn on d4. So after bishop on d3, castling was played. Castling also by me, so simply healthy development. Now I've finished my development. We have the connected rooks, we have played with all of our minor pieces. The activity of this knight is perfectly fine. The knights are on the best squares because of course we want to play with our knights towards the center. The bishop and the queen have a good diagonal, so far so good. Rook on e8 was played. You see how black is also preparing this knight outpost on e4. He prepares the same idea. As I said, these are the main ideas to place some pieces here on this supported pawns. I played simply a3 because I want to create a minority attack. The minority attack is very important here because if I manage to somehow block the position on the queen side with these three pawns, against black's 4 pawns, it could mean that I then in the continuation could play something like e4 and create maybe some weaknesses in black's position, or get use of my pawn majority here. So the idea of a3 is to play b4 and then really close the position on the queen side, then maybe try an attack on the king side with potential f4 moves. So queen on e7, you see black is preparing even more this idea to jump with the knight on e4. So I play simply b4, knight on e4. You see this is now very annoying because I cannot take the knight, then I get the fork here. So far black has accomplished what he wanted. He placed the knight on the supported square by the pawn, so he has realized this particular idea. So now it's my turn to make the same. First I played rook on b1. It comes with the idea to continue with my minority attack, because I would love now to play the move a4, and of course I cannot do that immediately because then my b4 pawn is hanging. So that's why my opponent here a6, I played a4, and now we have knight on b6. I played a5, and this is now this position that I wanted to achieve, because now after knight on d7, you see now I have, if you could just compare these two activities of the bishops, this bishop is really blocked out by its own pawns. So in a potential endgame, if you could just imagine the position without this knight on the board, without the queens and the rooks, I would have a really favorable game, because in an endgame with only the bishops on the board, this bishop would be always stuck to the defense of this b7 pawn. I mean, my bishop on the other hand could play really freely. So here after knight on d7, now I played knight on a4. Now, as I said, my main idea was to place a knight on e5 or on c5. These are the squares that are supported by this pawn on d4. So we have f5. You see black is continuing to fix his knight on e4, so that's why I played knight on c5. Here we have queen on f6, and now I found a tactic. It's not a tactic in like Mikhail Tal tactics or Rashid Nejmedinov's that are really this attacking brute. These are really positional tactics in which I first took the knight on d7, because as I said, I in the first couple of moves got rid of this bishop on d6, which was the defender of this e5 square. I'm pointing again out. I just want to fix my knight on the potential square e5. Here after knight on d7, bishop on d7, and now knight on e5. I finally got what I wanted, but the good thing is that it also comes with the attack, so I got another tempo. So you see rook on e7 and now f4, and in this position I was perfectly satisfied. I knew that I cannot lose this game. So it's, believe me or not, basically sort of an unlosable game, because this bishop is blocked out. I have a perfect knight which can be attacked by another minor piece. It can only be attacked by this knight on e4, but you need many moves like knight on d6, knight on f7, and then again I don't even have to trade it off. I can play something like knight on f3, because I just want to continue this game with the bad bishop position, with this bad bishop on d7. So here g5 was played, and now I got rid of this very annoying knight. You see bishop on e4, and now we have d takes e4, and now I played queen on c5. I'm occupying really these dark squares because I want to have a good control of the dark squares. I don't mind about the light squares, because the light squares are, although black has a good control of the light squares, but the bishop is really a bad one, and I will never trade off my powerful knight against the bishop on d7. So after bishop on e6, I played simply f takes g5. We have queen takes on g5. After potential h takes g5, then I have a very annoying move g4. I think it's very hard for black to handle this position. He would basically have to play something like f4. Here in the continuation, queen takes on g5 was played, and now rook on f4, creating this blocking system. Again, I'm not allowing black to advance somehow the pawn on f4, because then the bishop would be liberated, and then the bishop would have a good activity, and the bishop would be very powerful. So that's why rook on f4. We have bishop on d5, rook on f1, and now rook on f8. I've played now very nice tactical shot here, knight on g6, playing the fork because the queen was a little bit overloaded to the defense of this rook on e8. We have queen on g6 and we have queen on e7, and in this position I knew that I probably win this game because I have really a good position here. I'm up the exchange. Basically what I want to do is somehow maybe to open the position for my rook. So in the game, rook on f7 was played, rook on e8, we have king on g7, queen on e5, creating a check. Now I simply took another pawn here, g3, of course preventing this checkmate threat on g2. This was a simple idea by black. Bishop on c4, we have rook on f2, simply moving a little bit forward, bishop on d3, rook on f6, queen on g4, and now I simply choose to simplify the position. Queen takes f5, rook takes on f5, we have bishop on c4, preventing even some more simplifications. That's why I played rook on e5, bishop on d5, rook on f4, we have rook on c7, king on f2, king on g6, rook on f5, king on g7, and now rook on f6, rook on c8, rook on d6, rook on c7, and now g4. And in this position black resigned because now I can play king on g3, h4, and then simply continue to push the pawn with h5. I have a pass pawn. On the other hand, it's very hard for black to create a pass pawn because, as I said, you see how important this minority attack is, because I can basically battle with these two pawns even against these three pawns, because this is a backward pawn. It's also a weakness in the position, so black can never push the pawn here on b5 or even b6 and try to improve the position of his pawns. So as said, these are the main ideas. You see how in this position, let's go back a little bit here. So this was for me the key moment. After queen on f6, you see knight on d7, bishop takes on d7, and now simply placing the knight. Of course, maybe the best idea would have been even for black to maybe give up the rook, but then to continue maybe with this powerful knight on e4. But I think I can play something like f3, rook on e1, and try to restrict this knight's ability to play. So as said, this I think was a really good game, a good positional game, and it was really against a strong opponent. So as I said, he was around 570 rated, so I was really satisfied with this game, and I enjoyed this win a lot, I think. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other commented chess games that I've played, and you can also watch my commented chess games from some current tournaments like the Vikings tournament and many more. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.